He loves you.
I want an
He
extra
loves
hot
you.
chocolate because it's vacation. We're headed toward the snow.
Hey, come on, somebody.
It's vacation.
Welcome to the Brain Lady Podcast with your host, Karen D. Wood, the resident brainiac. Get ready for a mind-expanding journey as we unravel the mysteries of the brain from Notes from the Couch. Join us as we delve into the complexities and wonders of this enigmatic supercomputer. Fasten your mental seatbelts and prepare to have your synapses fired up. Welcome to the captivating world of the Brain Lady Podcast.
Welcome back to the Brain Lady Podcast. I am Karen Wood, and we are excited to bring you some more news from what happens in the couch in my therapy sessions. We've got a good one for you today, and we've also got Jermaine Jackson, our co-host.
To be back as the co-host, the Brain Lady Podcast. I love being here. Karen D. Wood, the brain specialist, the hippocampus talking, neuro walking. This is going to be a good session. We get to go back to the couch. So let's go. I just want to jump right in. What do we got today? What story from the couch do we have?
Well, we've got a very busy mama.
Okay.
We're going to call her the paint mom because she does a lot of cool art with a lot of
She's a painter.
She's a painter, but she's got a lot of kids and she's got a lot of complaints. So the thing she said she was working on the couch was my complaints have conversations with themselves.
They talking to each other?
My complaints have conversations
Do they answer each other too?
They have whole conversations. We'll talk about with
She might need to. She might.
So in our last podcast, we talked about the fireman dude who really was not aware of a 0 to 10.
Right.
So I'm holding up my hands at a 0 to 10 scale. He really was not aware of what he looked like or acted like at each of those escalation steps.
Right.
Even though his kids really got it, he, from trauma, was disconnected with it. And so what we helped Paint Mom do in a session, same thing, 0 to 10 scale. What did the different levels of complaint tell her about what her reactive scale was?
Good.
And remember, we've talked about that set point of reactivity where our mind tends to go back to that spot and start up there.
Yeah.
So once the conversation started up at a higher level, then the next time the dishes weren't done, because that was her example.
Dishes.
So she'd start doing the dishes and she'd just start grumbling. So she said that was about a 3, right? Well, look who's doing the dishes again.
Right.
She'd start, and then here comes the complaint cycle. Well, isn't that interesting? I have 4 girls and none of them are doing the dishes. So you can hear that now she's pointing fingers at a few more people.
Right.
Which tells you you're going higher up the scale. And then she starts having conversations about what each of those 4 girls aren't doing about other things in their life. So she starts complaining times 4 about all those things. So now she's like doing the 16 complaint thing.
A lot. It's heavy.
And so then the mind thinks you're in danger, right? So it's good. That amygdala fire alarm is going to escalate you because then, now she's into the nasty old stuff. Because her brain thinks it's in more danger because now she's getting up like 6, 7 about how her husband never helps with this kind of stuff. And now we're deep in the marital waters.
Not the husband.
Poor husband. He came into the picture. And because she was carrying a lot, trying to homeschool all these kids with
and she's homeschooling them?
With a husband with health problems. And so this simple thing of doing the dishes turned into a launch into tension.
Wow.
Now, she was pretty aware of her tension, but she wasn't aware of what the complaint was telling her about the tension. So you're on the way to school. You've got 4 precious babies in the car. What's a complaint that's you can kind of tell is kind of common in your mind?
A complaint. There's a lot. And I try to control them many times. My kids complain constantly. They're boys. Every 2 seconds, they act like they're starving.
Starving?
They're always complaining or asking or wanting to eat. And what drives me crazy is my boys eat good.
All the time.
I cook good. They got all the snacks. They got it all. But they're always complaining about food on
And it's a good example because they're complaining and then it starts off your complaint. So what does your complaint sound like in your head?
Be quiet. We feed you all the time. Stop acting like you're starving. And then it just continues and continues and continues, and it's just too much.
And then you can see how it attaches to other complaints you have.
Right.
And that kid didn't do the homework, and that kid made that mess, and that kid, then we're all launching onto all that. And so when complaints have conversations with themselves, it goes into other parts of the mind and can actually start jumping into that post-traumatic stress part of our brain with old stories, old dangers, and then that scale of escalation just keeps going up. Because what we want to remember is that limbic system is deep inside the brain.
Right.
And it doesn't know truth or time. It doesn't know we're just talking about food.
Right.
It doesn't know we're just going to say Fritos in 10 minutes. Right. It doesn't know. It knows that we're in this much danger about this topic. And then it might attach to something else. Or then it might attach to the health of your kids. And then it might attach to what happened to you last week, 2 weeks ago in your house.
And I think now that you're kind of explaining it a little bit more, I think for me, in them complaining about like, oh, eating or food or snacks or this, knowing that they always get to eat, I've heard stories. My wife and I, we grew up really different, but I've heard stories from my wife about times in her house as a child when there was no food.
No food.
And for her, that can be a thing, right? That can trigger her tension. One of the tension things my wife and I would have, and now we joke about it, but in the beginning it was a tension thing. My wife always goes to the grocery store. But in her always going to the grocery store and understanding clear thinking and working with you for the last 11 years, her and I actually processed it together. And her going to the grocery store and her seeing a full fridge and a full pantry was comforting to her, because there are times in her life that she grew up and the pantry were empty, or the fridge was empty.
Right.
So it was a security and a comfort thing for her. And then it just became a joke, because she would say, I'm going to the grocery store. And I'm like,
why?
There's food.
Why?
It's full. Well, I have to go get this. No, you don't. We have it. Now we laugh about it, but I didn't realize. Now I realize, in my kids complaining about food, I think about my wife, and I think about what if we ever got there? Like, what if we didn't have food?
Ooh, that's another train taking off in your mind.
That's a panic. So in them just being growing boys, because they're growing boys and they eat a lot, sometimes I don't know, that fear of what if we didn't, because I've heard the stories, so I think
really good example. A couple kids just whining in the back of the car. All of a sudden we're worrying about the future and enough food.
Yeah.
And
that
how
happens.
much are they
That's
going to
a
eat
real
when
thing.
they're all 16? Oh, heavens.
Man, them boys last night, we made pasta. They actually have to say no. They kept asking for more. They got seconds, and then Kaden wanted thirds, and Ashley's like, okay, you guys are done. Y'all done had too much spaghetti. You're done today.
And, yeah. So good example of when you're in the car and the kids are complaining that it can go much further. So Paint Woman, what we did in the session was learn how to acknowledge what the real tension was behind the complaint.
That's good.
A lot of times we're complaining about things, and that's not really what we're complaining about. She was able to start identifying. She did a really good job. I'm complaining about the girls not helping, but what I'm really complaining about is being worried about my husband's health and whether he's going to be able to keep this job, right?
Deep.
That it really is a big panic thing, just kind of like the food, right? And when she started getting a little higher up that scale, 5 to 6, getting genuinely irritated with everybody because they also didn't mow the lawn, and they also didn't do the bedroom, and they also didn't do, then she realized that was really her to-do list that was getting overwhelming. So what if she could focus on her to-do list? So
good.
So the gift is, if we can identify complaining as a gift, what else is it telling me?
Yeah.
Then we can partner up with it and figure out what's really going on. So we've been talking about Paint Mom and this quote of the day that her complaints have conversations with themselves. And we're trying to say, hey, how can we recognize complaint actually as a gift of the mind?
Wow,
it's a habit. And then how can we reframe it to try to figure out what else is really going on so that we can deal with the issues? Now, in clear thinking, we talk about tensions like boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So we can hear that the big box appeared to be the dishes.
Yeah.
But actually, as she got thinking about it and got more practiced in this, she could see, no, it was actually this box and this box and this box. And like we talked about a couple episodes ago, sometimes this box might actually have 3 boxes under it.
It does. Yeah, like, many times it does.
Yes. So like when she's saying nobody's doing their chores today, well, then she's got 4 little girls to look at who's not doing their chores.
Right.
Which one's really easy to do.
Let's take a second and just recap the boxes, right? We may have some listeners, this is the first time on.
Nice.
What are we talking about when we say boxes?
What we're talking about is the complaints are a tension in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about boxes on a paper or boxes in the air as a way to take things apart. Wait, let me slow it apart. Just like you did in the example in the last podcast of, I criticized that haircut. Ooh, that's because of this, and this. Remember that great example you did? Mm-hmm. We're just trying to break things down. So we actually got out a piece of paper. We have a worksheet called the Tension Box Worksheet. And we're going to figure out how to break down what I am really distressed about.
So each complaint has its own box.
Each complaint has its own box.
And within that one box, you give it a number on that scale, 0 to 10.
Yes.
How high is my tension with just this one thing? And then you process and work through that
one box.
That one box.
So if I can stop first box and say, well, look who's doing the dishes again.
Mm-hmm. And just stay there.
So what's the real tension there? Oh, when I go to acceptance, step number 3, the real, I want to be doing so many other things besides doing these dishes.
Right.
Now, when we talk about tension boxes, if you want to hand me that squirrel, I have a new story from last week, too.
Tell me about it. The squirrel's in the house.
The squirrel's in the house, and the squirrel should be driving a new car. Because when we left for Mammoth last week, we were not planning on buying a new car on the way to Mammoth. Because I was so excited. So it's, it's 5-hour drive around up the hill to the Mammoth, right? You got to go around.
Yeah.
Because interestingly, if you stand in my backyard and you look exactly across the Sierras, that's where we were going. But there's no road through the Sierras. So you got to go all the way around.
You could have walked.
That would be interesting. 78 days later. So we're at Bakersfield, 2 hours from home, right? And I tell Russell, let's stop at Starbucks because he can't stand Starbucks. So he did it just for me.
He loves you.
I want an extra hot chocolate because it's vacation. We're headed toward the snow.
Come on, somebody.
It's vacation. Let's go.
By the way, we seen your picture. You had your feet in the snow, like with no shoes on. Like, if that's not...
That's what I love to do in the snow.
That's some white folk stuff, girl. Like, you had no shoes, no socks.
You don't do forest and you don't do
No, not like that. Not my people.
So that's another squirrel. That's another story.
Yeah.
So I get back in the car and Russell says, hey, can you drive? Which he never does. So I knew he wasn't feeling good.
Okay.
Stroke stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I turn on the car and all the lights go on. The engine light comes on, the tracking light goes on, these 2 other lights goes on, and the whole thing's blinking at me. Now, this is my faithful 2005 Toyota Highlander.
Hey, shout out to the Highlanders.
Just the night before, it turned over 200,000 miles.
Girl.
And I prayed. Careful what you pray. I'm going to start looking for another car because 200,000 miles is when you start wondering on the trip if you're going to have a problem.
And you decide to drive it to Mammoth.
Well, it had been such a good car. I mean, we've had no trouble with that car. We really thought this was going to be the get to 300,000 mile car, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, we're 11 miles outside of Bakersfield. All the lights are on. And I start complaint boxing in my mind.
Yeah.
I can't believe I need this vacation. I've been living for days to get to this vacation. Mm-hmm. How much money is this going to be? What's Russell going to be like stressed? When am I going to get to Mammoth? And I sat up straight and I took each box at a time. What do I do about all these check lights? Because a precious husband of mine, in all of his good intentions, says it might have been the way you started the car.
Hey, you started the car wrong. Come on, Russell. Come on.
So that was another box, marital compliment, not.
Hey.
Box number 1, car repair.
Yeah.
Got down to the bottom. Step number 3, what's the outcome of the picture? With gratitude, there's a dealership 11 miles away. But then my complaining vacation brain went up to the next box, so I'm doing that fish hookup the next box. That is 15 minutes behind us. Mm-mm. So here I'm whining to God that the dealership that is so close to us is 15 minutes behind us. Wow. Look, I'm holding this poor squirrel like I'm about.
Squirrel is screaming, like, let my man go.
15 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to the dealership, 3 hours for them to assess it. Okay, fine. I got a lot of work to do. I got some things rewritten. I got a lot of good. I just let my ADHD go nuts because I had this 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, here's the news. All the repairs are 3 times what your car is worth. The inner coils have burnt out.
Hey.
And we don't have them. You have to wait till tomorrow to get them. So my boxes right away went, where's my vacation? I deserve this vacation. How come my vacations keep getting messed with? Mm-hmm. And they started having conversations with themselves.
Yeah.
And so clear thinking boxes, step number 3 said, you're in this dealership. Why are you in this dealership? Does someone else need you in this dealership? Do you need to have more time to be creative in the dealership? What is the gift? You were not 3 hours in the middle of nowhere, because there's a lot of nowhere between Bakersfield and Mammoth.
Yeah, but that was a dealership.
So then we just got our lunch and said, what have we been wanting to do? There's a used car dealership right there. Went there. They had what we wanted, the Toyota Highlander 2022 hybrid.
Cut it out.
Really good shape.
Cut it out.
Really good price. I like the guy.
Can we just thank the Lord?
Absolutely.
That's what it was. Like, you were in a position, in a place where my car broke down. Let's go get a new one because God's blessed me. And we just be thankful, right?
With complete acceptance, mm-hmm. I've lost the day.
Yeah. Complete
acceptance. I'm going to be driving to Mammoth in the dark in a car we don't really know.
But it's new, baby. But it's new. Wow.
Less than 40,000 miles. Yes. So, wow. But here's where the squirrel comes in with conversations with itself. Mm-hmm. Enter the finance guy.
Hey.
Oh, snap.
You got to write the check.
He starts doing the shell games with the money. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 2 years of free oil change. And I'm like, mm-mm. And I'm going to give you 2 years of free tire repair.
I don't want it.
And then when it's time to sign the contract, $400 for that 2 years of oil changes. Wait, I thought you said it was free. Well, we just have to adjust it over here. Can you show me where it's adjusting? No, he couldn't show me where it was adjusting.
Hey, you can't fool Wood.
Now it's 4:00 in the afternoon, right? And so took a deep breath. The guy is screwing me around, but I got a good deal in the car. I'll get the good deal out of the oil change. Well, then he hands me this little screen and says, sign here for the bank. I'm supposed to sign 20 times my name, and I don't know when I'm signing.
Come on, somebody.
Yes. So, whole story. Anyway, by the time I got out of there, I had we were not complaining at all. We were grateful for the car.
10 o'clock at night?
Screwed around at night? 6 o'clock.
Okay.
He doesn't even say to me, thank you for shopping, blah, 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 Toyota. He says, thank you for shopping. And at one point I said to him, I don't know, you are a crook. I said.
You told the man he's a crook?
3 times I told him he was a crook.
Wow. What?
Because every time he said, would you like to start the paper all over again? Right? My set point of reactivity, I shall eat you.
He's a crook.
He's a crook. So anyhow, all that to say, I handled the whole day by the boxes.
Right.
I was doing boxes all day long.
That's good.
Because here's 10 more boxes. Well, what would you look like handling each of them with peace and clarity?
And this is why clear thinking is so important, right? I said every episode, language shapes behavior, behavior shapes culture. When we understand this language and we can talk to our brains, we can talk to ourselves, we can get ourselves out of these hijacked moments.
Right.
We show up better.
We show up so much better.
You were the best Wood in those moments.
It got a little tricky, a little dicey there a couple of times.
I get it, but you knew you understood the language. You knew in your brain, put these things in boxes, slow these things down, let me process what's going on. And when you understand clear thinking, your brain does this in milliseconds.
Even when you drive out of the parking lot of the dealership and the maintenance light comes on.
Oh, the new car? Cut it out, new car.
So I knew it was probably just one of their standard turned 40,000 miles. I didn't really worry about it. But the dealio was I had to drive all the way to Mammoth in the dark, and I love that drive.
You didn't get to see it.
I didn't get to see it, but I was fine. I just imagined what it would look like. The new car has the lane correction. So there was a lot of beep, 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 beep.
What did your boys say when you showed up in the new car?
They were pretty impressed with the new car. So the tension boxes just allow us to break down. And if we're in high complaint, then we can acknowledge what the complaint is. Because remember what we've said before, complaint doesn't usually come out of nowhere.
Right.
There's usually a fact that is starting the complaint. The fact is, for our paint mom, the girls were supposed to do the dishes. And somebody was coming over and they didn't. So that could have started. How can we take our shoulders, do the exhale,
right?
And say, the fact is, someone's coming over and the dishes aren't done.
Fact is, we'll get it done.
Fact is, I'm going to do this. It's going to take 12 minutes, and then I'll address the rest of it later. And then what could she have been using that 12 minutes to think about instead of all the conversations with all the complaints, right?
That's good.
So what's happening neurologically there is what we can talk about. So what we're talking about is what is the neurology of complaint is actually what we're talking about.
Right, okay.
So you know a lot about that amygdala of yours that you love.
Yep.
What do you think is happening in all the F's when we're in a situation of complaint?
Well, our amygdalas they swell correctly, right? Is that correct? So many times our amygdalas swell and we're in those F's. We're in fight, we're in flight, we're in freeze, we're in fawn, we're in all these different F's. And if you're not careful, you'll stay there for a really long time.
And so part of knowing that there's a brain part, hand up in the air with those amygdalas, right?
Loose.
If we can know when that fire alarm is doing the alert and say, hey, I'm listening to you, I hear the alert.
Right.
It's kind of hard to do in complaint because it might be a number of things, right?
True, yeah.
Because all the F's are going to have a different complaint.
Yeah.
Like, think about Paint Mom. What was the complaint when she was fighting mad, would you say?
Her complaint was she has no help. Nobody's doing anything.
Exactly.
She's all by herself. All of the things just start firing off.
And then comes that PTSD of all the other times she hasn't got all the help.
Yeah.
Ooh, what does complaint doing dishes sound like if you're flight and want out of here? What does that sound like, doing dishes?
That's just really rough.
I can't believe I'm here again.
The same. You're repeating it over and over and over
when I get done with this, I'm going to leave everybody and I'm going to go get flight, right?
Yeah.
And then fright enters, and then if fawn shuts you down during the dishes, that's really complicated, right?
Yeah, then you're not gonna get them done, and then it's bad.
And the reason the amygdala does those chemical F responses is because the hippocampus next door.
Yeah.
That memory replay center next door. So like if you're holding up your hands and the amygdala is your thumb bed, that hippocampal tube is the rest of your thumb. It has memories of how many times have we been in this boat.
Yep. How many times have I done the dishes? How many times have they forgot? How many times? And
then here comes that PTS train coming in there because of all those times. And then we talk about that cingulus gyrus, what we just learned about, where we want those things to go to the top of the brain so we can have our best balancer working. But that's a problem with complaint. Because if you have all these dishes you're doing and you don't complain about it, how does the family get the message that you're ticked if you don't complain about it?
Yeah.
So that creates kind of a problem. So we learn how to complain, hoping everybody's going to listen and figure that out. So you're hoping in the car with the hungry boys that by you saying, you guys always do this and you better knock it off, you're hoping that they get the clue, we better not do this anymore, right?
Right. That's the hope.
That's the hope, but you're adding tension on top of tension. And
right, and that doesn't
not for those boys. They're not going to get it, not what they're hungry.
No.
So what we're trying to do is realize how can we get, so now I've got my hand up to that frontal lobe.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get where we can get that objective, clear view thinking of doing dishes and connecting with my kids again and getting done it and getting time to do the painting that I love to do. So what clear thinking helps us do is really paint a different picture of the outcome, right? We can either be high in complaint or kind of a reframing. We can have our best state of mind.
Right.
Because remember, a couple podcasts ago, we did the little things that mess us up.
Yeah.
Right? So she could have been handling, and Russell and I did so well with the car, getting to Mammoth, snow, boys doing this and that and this and that. We did so well getting to the dealership the next Monday, and the contract that I paid that money for was not ready, so they weren't going to change the oil change here in our area. And we handled all that, and then we got to Carl's Jr.
Hey, Carl's Jr.
across the street, and we were like eating each other. We handled all those things, but just what are we going to order at Carl's Jr.? We were just like...
Over some burgers?
Breakfast.
Oh, breakfast. Okay.
And I could logically say we just walked across the second busiest intersection at Fresno at rush hour. I could logically say all that, but don't judge me when I want to order for breakfast. And then we just went...
Don't do it. What'd you order?
They have a wonderful steak breakfast burrito.
Uh-oh. The steak breakfast burrito. You're going to have to bring me one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to bring me one.
And so the point is, complaint is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's an alert system. If we can embrace it and listen to it,
right,
and then do our 4 steps. So what is your understanding of what the 4 steps are for clear thinking?
Yeah. So
we're going to start off. Number 1, notice the tension.
Yep.
What is my body doing in this complaint? Number 2, what's the outcome of the picture if I keep this complaint train going?
Yeah.
Number 3, what's the outcome of the picture with acceptance, which does not mean the situation is good, right, kind, lovely, true. Nothing's right out of Philippians 4. It just means I want my best brain to deal with this thing.
Yep, that's good.
Even if it means I really needed this vacation, I lost a whole day of it, I don't get my beautiful views on the way up there, we're going to get there at 11 o'clock at night. What do I look like getting there at 11 o'clock at night? So happy to see my boys being in Mammoth. So,
yeah.
And so the last step of clear thinking is step number 4, notice the change in tension. So what we invited Paint Lady to do is, if you could have gone to gratitude doing the dishes, that higher thinking, what would you have looked like doing the dishes?
Right.
Right? Now that's trouble too, because if the girls see you having a good time doing the dishes, singing songs, and you're not at all tense, well, they're like, good, Mom can do the dishes tomorrow. So, but we have to not worry about that and just worry about our best state of mind and what we would look like doing our best work.
Yeah.
So that's why that number 4 of clear thinking is really helpful. Notice the change in tension. So good. Today we talked about a lady who came into the couch and said, my complaints have conversations with themselves. And you and I could both come up with scenarios in our lives where, oh yeah, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then what we did is kind of looked at the brain part of complaint, that it's an alert system, it's practiced, it's habit, and it needs to be reframed, repracticed, so it's not necessary anymore.
So good. That is so good. So this was another great episode, the Brain Lady podcast here at the podcast layer, and I am just excited that we got to share this with you today. So I just want to encourage everybody to like and subscribe. We're on all of your favorite social media platforms. So I look forward to seeing you guys next time. And again, love y'all. Thank you for watching. Wood.
And don't forget, move your shoulders, sit up straight, take your exhale.
Thank you, Wood.